I think this is one of the motivations behind the Temple of Man in Egypt, or the Temple of Luxor, it's more commonly called.
Yeah.
That this guy Schwaller, R.A.Schwaller, he studied it for 15 years, studied every little detail of it, and the conclusion he came to that it was really like an encyclopedia in stone about the complexity of the human system and how it integrated with the universe. But that was really like at the end of one epoch and era and the beginning of another. It's almost like they put that together so the knowledge would be preserved for the future.
Yeah.
And, a mainstream Egyptologist would have a completely different view about it. Schwaller was quite extraordinary. He was a deeply esoteric man. He did a whole study of Chartres Cathedral as well, which went into the more esoteric explanation about it. So he was quite primed to study ancient Egypt, and he didn't intend to do that. He was there on holiday with his family, and he went there, and again, an atmosphere, the kind of unseen world's energies that were there, he must have just soaked it up like a sponge. He must have been inclined or had a certain proneness. And boom, that was him for 15 years. So he began studying it, not knowing where that would lead to. But he measured everything. He looked at the numerology of everything. He looked at the symbology of everything. I mean, it was him that made that discovery. It was laid out in the proportion of the human canon, but cut off at the crown, where the temples are. So he really rediscovered what had been, I think, had been put there to be discovered later on in the future. And he was completely discredited at the time, and it's taken very much due to the work of John Anthony West, who almost dedicated his life to making sure that this knowledge was passed on to a new generation. And I think the timing was right, because it's been verified by geologists, and I mentioned in the article this chap Rory Duff, who's the leading expert in the world at the moment on ley lines, these natural energy lines that exist around the planet, that he discovered most of the time a sacred temple or a sacred site is built where these ley lines cross what he calls a node. And he's also discovered that these ley lines are becoming more charged and bigger in volume. He's almost like turning up the electricity dial, that everything's becoming more and more charged. And he for example, does he takes people on trips to some of these stone circles around the world at the time of the two solstices and the equinox. And part of why they do that is people want to sensitize themselves and train themselves to be able to plug into these powers and energies, because they are changing, and it's obviously got something to do with the future and these new energies that science and astrophysics are now documenting and recording as flooding into this planet that never have before. We're entering a whole new phase of where the planet and solar system is in the galaxy, and it's a more highly charged zone. So, all of these things come back to being a very practical type of application, because the human system it was designed, and it naturally deals in this unseen world side of life. So, and that's something we're very interested about, making that knowledge available for those who are interested, because you can train and learn how to do it, become more plugged into these things.